Most people are taught a very simple story about money. Long ago, people used barter. A farmer had grain but needed shoes. A shoemaker had shoes but wanted meat. Trade was slow and frustrating. Then someone invented money. Coins appeared. Trade became easier. Civilization moved forward. It sounds orderly. It sounds logical. But it is largely wrong. Money did not appear because barter was inconvenient. Money appeared because people in power needed a tool. And once that tool existed, it changed who controlled work, resources, and force. Let's slow down. Before money, small communities did not constantly barter. People lived with their families, friends, and neighbors. Everyone knew each other. If you gave someone food today, you trusted that they would help you later. No one kept receipts. No one calculated exact amounts. You gave because you belonged to a community. You received because people knew you. Debt was not written down. It lived in memory. Value was not numbers. It was relationships. This system worked very well as long as groups stayed small. But when everything began to grow, it broke down. Villages turned into cities. Cities began trading with other cities. Strangers appeared. People no longer shared a common history, customs, or trust. You could no longer rely on memory. You could no longer rely on goodwill. Conflicts became more frequent. Now think like a ruler. How do you feed an army made of strangers? How do you collect taxes from people you will never see? How do you control a massive population? Barter does not work for that. This is where money truly enters the picture. Not as a convenience, but as a control system. To move value across time and distance, you need something physical, something durable, something everyone recognizes, something that does not depend on trust or conversation. Food spoils. Animals run away. Land cannot be moved. Labor disappears once it is used. Metal solved these problems. Copper, bronze, and silver did not rust. They could be melted, divided, and counted. They were rare enough to matter, yet common enough to circulate. Metal did not just preserve value, it made value portable. But here is the key point. It was not merchants who turned metal into money. It was states. Early states did not need money to trade with each other. They needed money to pay soldiers and collect taxes. Armies do not fight for promises. Soldiers do not march for goodwill. They want payment they recognize and trust. When rulers began demanding taxes in metal, people were forced to obtain metal. Farmers who had previously lived largely outside the market now had to sell their goods, their labor, or their time just to pay taxes. Markets did not grow naturally. They were forced into existence. Money did not weaken the power of rulers. It made them stronger and more organized. This part is usually skipped in school. Money was never neutral. It was not invented to help people trade fairly. It was invented to measure, extract, and move value at scale. Once value could be taken, it could be stored. Once it could be stored, it could be accumulated. Once it could be accumulated, it could be used to control people. That is why the first financial centers were not markets. They were temples and palaces. Kings and priests recorded grain, metal, and labor long before free trade existed. Accounting came before coins. Ledgers existed before markets. The system began at the top. Then came a major upgrade, stamped coins. When rulers began marking metal with official symbols, they were not just making trade easier. They were sending a powerful message. You don't need to trust the person giving this to you. Trust us. Authority replaced relationships. Coins were stamped with gods, kings, and emperors. Every transaction reminded people who was in charge. Every payment reinforced the system. And once rulers realized they controlled money, they pushed it further. They reduced the metal content. They minted more coins. They spent more than they had. Inflation is not a modern discovery. It began the moment money could be adjusted. Prices rose. Trust slowly disappeared. Soldiers demanded higher pay. But by the time people noticed, the rulers who made the decisions were often already gone. Still, society could not go back. Money was too useful. Here is the big idea. Money did not evolve away from power. It evolved alongside power. The metals changed. The symbols changed. The faces on money changed. The logic stayed the same. We still trust official units. We still trust authority over people. We still accept numbers instead of relationships. Money did not just measure value. It changed how people behaved. Power no longer needed constant violence. It could wait. It could plan. It could save. Armies could be built before wars. States could grow during peace. Money made power patient. That is why monetary systems survive even when rulers fall. Kings die, empires collapse. But the money system continues, just with new faces printed on it. Over time, money spread everywhere. Wealth was passed from generation to generation. Debt followed families for centuries. Inequality could persist long after its original cause disappeared. Money stopped being a tool and became the environment we live in. At Rome's peak, money felt normal and invisible. Coins passed through countless hands. No one thought about who mined the metal or who suffered when its value changed. Abstraction had done its job. When pressure arrived, rulers did not change the system. They adjusted it. Less silver, more coins, slow inflation, quiet collapse, solving today's problems by stealing from tomorrow. Sound familiar? Modern money does not come as coins, but it works the same way. It is backed by authority, laws, taxes, and enforcement. We just use different words now. Liquidity instead of debasement. Balance sheets instead of clipped coins. Institutions instead of emperors. Same machine. New paint. This does not make money evil, it makes it human. The mistake is believing money was built to be fair. It was not. It was built to scale. Fairness has always been fought for afterward. Inflation, debt, and crises are not accidents. They are normal outcomes of a system designed to manage large populations and large power differences. Learning monetary history does not help you predict the future. It helps you understand where you stand. Money can move value, it can store labor, it can organize massive systems, but it cannot guarantee justice. It cannot replace judgment, and it cannot protect those who mistake stability for safety. Money did not exist to make life easier. It existed to make power portable, and the moment power became portable, everything changed. The real danger is not that money is corrupt. It is believing money is neutral. History does not repeat itself exactly, but the rules it follows rarely change. And once you see those rules, you stop asking why the system behaves the way it does. You start asking a better question. Where do I fit in this system? If this helped you see money differently, subscribe. History explains what headlines never can.